Cornelia de Lange is a rare malformation syndrome that affects 1 in 10,000 people and affects boys and girls equally. Most people with Cornelia de Lange will live into adulthood unless there are complications such as congenital heart defect. There are 2 subtypes of Cornelia de Lange syndrome, classical and mild. Most cases of Cornelia de Lange have a sporadic cause, meaning there is nothing a parent did to cause the syndrome. Most diagnoses are dependent on the pattern of malformations, particularly from the distinctive facial features and extreme slowed growth and development. Children with Cornelia de Lange are usually small at birth and they remain small for the rest of their lives. They also suffer from limb abnormalities such as short forearms, small hands, missing or misplaced fingers, and small feet. Distinctive facial features include a small neck, neat arched pencil-like eyebrows, thin lips, nostrils that point up, a small chin, a cleft palate, a long philtrum, which is the space between the nose and the mouth, a small head referred to as microcephaly, and excessive body hair. There is variability of severity between people, and individuals diagnosed with the mild form of de Lange exhibit facial and hand abnormalities but may not have the slowed development. Diagnosis often cannot be done at birth because many of the features become more noticeable with time. People with Cornelia de Lange have varying degrees of cognitive delays. The classical subtype is often severely cognitively disabled, while the mild subtype has borderline to mild cognitive disability. Some children with Cornelia de Lange may exhibit behaviors seen often in autism spectrum disorders, such as not wanting physical contact, and behaviors that are self-stimulating, such as rocking. Gross motor development, like crawling, walking, and running, are also delayed. The mild subtype learn to walk between 1 to 2 years, but the classical type learn to walk between 2 to 5 years. Fine motor development, like pinching and grabbing, is less delayed even with limb differences. Gastroesophageal reflux, or GERD, affects over 90% of people with Cornelia de Lange. This leads to difficulty eating, swallowing, and digesting food. Many may have a gastric tube. Children with Cornelia de Lange have unique communication needs. Speech and language are the most severely delayed area of development, with 30 to 40% of these children considered late talkers, 20 to 25% considered limited talkers, 25 to 30% considered nonverbal, and only 3 to 4% having normal or near normal speech development. Children in the classical subtype are mostly nonverbal, but can benefit from alternative and augmentative communication strategies, such as the use of a speech-generating device or sign language for both functional and social communication. Even those who remain nonverbal into adulthood understand what is said to them and can have intact reading skills. The mild subtype also has language delays, but can learn to speak in sentences with help of a speech-language pathologist. In both subtypes, language comprehension is better than language production, and even those with high vocabularies do not show strong use of grammatical skills. Even those children with normal language skills do not talk often, but there are no signs of elective mutism, or choosing not to speak. An interesting characteristic of this syndrome is children are reported to use a word or phrase once perfectly, and then rarely, if ever, use it again. Hearing impairment is almost universal, affecting over 90% in children with Cornelia de Lange. This can limit their language abilities even further and cause larger delays. In children suspected of having Cornelia de Lange, pre-verbal and verbal communication assessments should be done as soon as possible. Both comprehension and production of language should be assessed because of the huge mismatch between the two. They should receive hearing tests and hearing aids or headsets, if needed, as soon as possible, because even mild hearing loss affects a child's ability to learn language. Communication intervention with an early intervention speech-language pathologist should begin as soon as possible after the diagnosis, because speech and language are the most delayed area for these children. Parents of children with Cornelia de Lange should speak to their children as if they are expecting a response and should speak in grammatically correct sentences. Gestures and sign language are encouraged to help with communication, as even typically developing children gesture before they speak. If parents and speech-language pathologists decide augmentative and alternative communication would be best for the child, many factors must be considered, such as their cognitive levels, motor abilities, and language comprehension skills. Although they may learn at a different rate, children with Cornelia de Lange will continue to learn all their lives and therefore should be continued to be taught. Children from bilingual homes should receive intervention in both languages, and parents should speak in the language they are fluent in to the child. Parents looking for support should contact Cornelia de Lange Syndrome Foundation, which is an international support group run by parents. For more information, check out the following resources.